Hello! Today we're going to be checking out El Mundo Gira, episode 11 of season 4. Debuting January 12th, 1997, El Mundo Gira places our agents in the midst of a love triangle, a mysterious illness, and perhaps the legendary cryptid, the Chupacabra. I sure hope they don't squander the Chupacabra like they did the Jersey Devil. The episode begins at a migrant worker camp located here, because I don't know how the hell to say this. We've got two brothers, Eladio and Soledad, who both seem to be interested in young Maria here, though she already seems to be with Soledad, so I'm not sure hitting on your brother's girl is the brotherly thing to do. Flaquita breaks up their little get-together, but she looks at him like, I know what you're up to, pal. Things go sideways quick when there's a sudden bright flash in the sky and it just starts pouring rain. Weird yellow rain. It lasts about as quickly as it came, but poor Maria and a goat are both killed by something. If there's a dead goat, this means it can only be the work of the Chupacabra. Although, where's Eladio? He did follow Maria. What if he's the Chupacabra? Mulder and Scully are brought on the scene because there's no way Mulder is passing up the opportunity of finding a cryptid.
14 events have been linked to alien encounters. Cattle mutilations, the kind of exsanguinated animal carcass you were just looking at.
Mulder attempts to speak to the immigrants, but they think he's immigration police and start to haul ass. I don't really blame them because if the FBI showed up at my door, I wouldn't exactly be thrilled either. Mulder does manage to calm the situation, and Flaquita explains to him that Maria was killed by the Chupacabra. Soledad, on the other hand, has another explanation. Soledad claims his brother killed Maria because if he couldn't have her, then no one could.
Mulder, what we've walked into here is a Mexican soap opera.
I don't know too many Mexican soap operas that have Chupacabras, Scully. Unless they do, I've never actually seen one. Mulder sends Scully off to check out Maria's body while he tries to find out where Eladio is. Mulder meets with Agent Conrad Lozano of INS, hoping that maybe Eladio could be here. But it seems none of the immigrants use their actual names, so trying to find one specific person is like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
The Chupacabra?
Yeah, you've heard of it. You don't believe it.
Seems no one but the old lady so far believes that all of this was the cause of the Chupacabra. Anyway, Scully barges into the morgue asking to see Maria's body, and the pathologist inside kinda looks at her like, why would you want to see that? Scully tells someone she's a medical doctor.
Well, I'm a medical doctor. If you show me the body, I can examine it myself.
So Scully, without any sort of PPE, opens Maria's body bag and she looks like that container of Chinese food I forgot in the fridge that one time. Mulder must have a horseshoe up his ass because they somehow find Eladio almost immediately. Everyone is paranoid because they think he's the Chupacabra, but he doesn't look like no goat sucker to me. Eladio explains what happened, the bright flash, the yellow rain, but what I want to know is how did this kill Maria and the goat but left Eladio unharmed? Anyways, Eladio is going in front of a judge and then sent back to Mexico, but everyone is terrified of him because they all think he's the Chupacabra.
Why would you want to do that?
Try to solve an unexplained death.
I think the FBI's got better things to do.
You don't know Mulder. Scully picks Mulder up and tells him Eladio didn't kill Maria. Her cause of death was natural. Natural? What the hell is natural about this? She looks like Stephen King from Creepshow. The agents find the INS bus on the side of the road with everyone fleeing from it, in an area that is definitely California and not Canada in the fall. Scully thinks the man died from a fungal infection, but not the same one that killed Maria. This one appears to be more aggressive, whereas the one that ate away at Maria's face was normal. Agent Lozano was able to round up nearly everyone that was on the bus, except for Eladio, who has completely disappeared. Agent Scully is once again being left to her own devices and figuring out what this fungus is, while Mulder and Lozano both go on the lookout for Eladio. Eladio finds the guy who brought him over the border and begs for the man to take him back to Mexico. But if he wants to go back, he's gonna have to cough up some cash.
I only need 2, amigo. Dos.
And he's willing to do anything to get that cash. Does every Mexican immigrant know he's apparently the Chupacabra? Because all of them seem to be afraid of him. The fungi Scully pulled off the latest victim seems to just be good old athlete's foot. But the doctor did find a strange enzyme from the sample that could be what's really causing these weird deaths, as it's allowing perfectly normal fungi that our body can fight off to rapidly grow and take over. Mulder and Lozano speak to the migrants that Eladio stole work from, so they at least have a lead as to where he could be. Eladio apparently now sweats this enzyme, and you'd think that would be the worst of his problems, but no. His brother found him. Soledad finds the body of the man that Eladio was working for, giving Eladio's stunt driver enough time to escape in the man's vehicle. Eladio then meets up with a woman named Gabrielle, which I think is his sister. He basically begs her for money so he can get back to Mexico, which she begrudgingly agrees to, but not until tonight when she gets paid from her second job. Which I guess isn't soon enough for Eladio, because he just takes off running.
I think Eladio Buente is responsible for those 2 deaths.
Responsible how?
By spreading an enzyme produced by what appears to be a new strain of conidial fungi.
Scully thinks Eladio might be like a patient zero or a carrier of the enzyme that doesn't affect him, only things he touches. Mulder, on the other hand, has his own explanation. Basically, he thinks a meteorite fell to Earth containing this enzyme. The meteorite superheated a nearby water supply, which forced the enzyme into the sky and made it rain down on the people below. If this theory were true, then why did it only seem to affect Maria, Eladio, one goat, and no one else? The barber that Eladio saw earlier about going back to Mexico pulls up and tells the agents that for a nominal fee, he might know where Eladio is. They nearly get him too, but he's a slippery little guy. Although how exactly were they going to apprehend him? They can't touch him, otherwise they'll become infected. The truck he hid away in is stopped sometime later as Eladio infected and killed everything aboard. Flaquita for some reason is brought to the scene. I don't know why she's allowed near the infected area or what her relation even is to any of these people, but at least we learn that Gabrielle is Eladio's cousin, so that clears up that mystery.
Where is he?
¿Qué?
Don't give me your K. You know who.
I understand you need to know where Eladio is, but I don't think you need to be so rough with the poor girl. It's not her fault her cousin is the Chupacabra. She claims no one is there, but Lozano tells her he's going to be keeping a real close eye on her. Before they leave, Mulder thinks they should hang around because he suspects something is going on here. Eladio looks like hell. Whatever this enzyme is, now seems to be attacking him as well.
Hey, Jose, this ain't no restaurant. You know you have to pay for all that.
You know, I've been in this exact same situation, except I just turned and walked the other way. I wasn't getting paid enough to deal with that shit. Hilariously, Eladio knocks the whole display over, and the worker thinks he can tell Eladio to clean it up. Good luck with that one. But you should always touch something with your bare hands that a clearly infected man was slobbering all over. Mulder was right to hang around because Soledad leaves Gabrielle's place. She couldn't keep lying to him, and now he knows where Eladio is, and he's out for blood. So much drama between these people. Next time, try leaving your brother's girlfriend alone. Soledad arrives at the store looking for his brother, but instead he finds the agents.
He's been here.
How long has the body been there, and how did the cashier not notice this? This is what happens when you take a retail job way too seriously. Eladio makes it to Gabrielle's place, and he looks even worse. It looks like he's starting to change into the Martian Manhunter. The agents arrive, but Eladio has already left to Mexico with all of Gabrielle's money. She was terrified the Chupacabra would get her too, and with how he's looking, it's hard to argue that he isn't the Chupacabra. Mulder thinks Gabrielle was lying, and instead Eladio is going to confront his brother. Agent Lozano seemed to be in on this thing as well, but ends up getting infected by the enzyme. There's a bright flash, and suddenly there's aliens. Shit is getting wild. Well, that's Flaquita's version of the events anyways. Gabrielle's version of the events differs just slightly. According to Gabrielle, Soledad doesn't kill his brother, and instead accidentally shoots Lozano, who wants him to kill the Chupacabra. Then Soledad becomes a Chupacabra as well, and the two brothers head back to Mexico together. What?
Frankly, I'm confused by this story.
Yeah, me too, Skinner. The agents give their versions of the events, which are basically a combination of Flaquita and Gabrielle's versions, but the brothers just sort of disappear back to Mexico. Though the trail of bodies they're going to be leaving behind because of their enzymes tells me it won't be that difficult to find them. El Mundo Gira is a strange episode and a huge waste of the Chupacabra mythos. I remember the disappointment I felt when first watching this one because as someone who loved reading about cryptids, they did such a disservice to the Chupacabra. It's like when they did the Jersey Devil and there was no Jersey Devil. Why do an episode about the Chupacabra and have it be about a love triangle instead? There's vague social commentary about how illegal immigrants are treated, which could work in an X-Files episode, but turning the whole thing into a weird soap opera really doesn't help it. This episode feels like Teso dos Bichos, where they tried to do something interesting with another culture's myth or legend, but completely dropped the ball. Funnily enough, Teso dos Bichos and El Mundo Gira are both written by John Sheban, one of the weaker writers on the show who would eventually become one of the show's executive producers. Hollywood is a weird place where people tend to fail upwards. As bad as these two episodes are, they aren't even the worst episode he's written. John came up with the initial idea when he thought back to the immigrants lining the streets of Los Angeles freeway working away in the strawberry fields. He took this initial idea, mixed in the legend of the Chupacabra, and added in the idea about the fungal infection. He only learned about the Chupacabra legend fairly recently when reading about it in the Los Angeles Times. John spent some time with the INS at an immigration processing center so he could get a feel for how the immigrants acted and how they were treated. One of the things he noticed was how the immigrants never gave anyone their real name, something Eladio would do in the episode. An initial idea for the story had a child carrying the fungal infection and then later on a truck driver. Eventually, he would settle on the character Eladio and would begin crafting the love triangle between his brother and their love Maria. When Chris Carter noticed his script read something like a soap opera, he suggested they title the episode El Mundo Gira, which translates into The World Turns. This was a direct reference to the soap opera As the World Turns, and anyone who knew Spanish would likely understand the tone they were going for. But what is the tone they were going for? Is the whole thing supposed to be silly? The acting is obviously exaggerated in parts to feel like a soap opera, but was this intentional? It's all very weird. The actors are all fine, but the material they're given isn't the best. Simi Mehta, who played Gabrielle, and Raymond Cruz, who played Eladio, were seeing each other at the time of filming and eventually got married. Since then, Raymond has been in some pretty high-profile stuff, including Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Jose Yenque, and I'm sure I butchered that, who played Soledad, has had a pretty long career, and as far as I can tell, this episode of The X-Files was his first professional gig. Of all the guest actors in this episode, the one I knew the most growing up was Ruben Blades. This all came down to his role as Danny in Predator 2, a movie I watched religiously as a kid. So when I saw him, I didn't know his name, but I was like, hey, that's the guy from Predator 2. So that was exciting. But he's been in a ton of stuff, with Fear the Walking Dead spin-off show likely being his biggest gig. Also, El Mundo Gira aired the same night as the Simpsons episode The Springfield Files, which had David and Gillian reprising their roles as Mulder and Scully on The Simpsons. Since they both aired on the same channel, at least here they did, that meant you got a double dose of X-Files. Surprisingly, the X-Files actually had twice as many people watch when compared to The Simpsons. 11 million watched The Springfield Files, and 22 million watched El Mundo Gira. The Springfield Files is the much better watch though, and I actually did a video on the Springfield Files, which I'll leave a link in the description if you feel like checking it out. El Mundo Gira currently sits at 6.7 on IMDb, and I'm gonna go with a 4 or a 5. I really don't like this one. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not very good and wastes the Chupacabra, which always annoyed me. Next up, we have the series' most watched episode of all time, as a seemingly dead paramedic walks out of the hospital and Scully learns something that will change her forever. In the episode, Leonard Betts. So what do you think of El Mundo Gira? I can't wait to read the comments for this one. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you're having a great day and stay spooky.
Sunday on an all-new X-Files. Strange sightings.
Witnesses described a bright flash and a hot yellow rain fell from a cloudless sky.
Animal mutilations.
Oh my God.
And death by unnatural causes.
You believe in extraterrestrials?
An all-new X-Files, Sunday at 9, 8 Central on Fox.